Long ago, in the heart of the vast and golden Sahara Desert, there was a famous oasis called Sandstone Springs. It wasn't just famous for its shimmering water or the towering palm trees that swayed gently in the desert breeze. It was renowned for its desert tea. Brewed from a secret mix of herbs, dates, and cactus nectar, this tea was said to be so delicious that travelers would journey for weeks just to get a sip. But what made the tea truly legendary was the Bertentortenfaunzert Tea Festival, where tribes of camels, humans, and other desert animals would gather to share stories, trade goods, and enjoy a grand feast. The camels, as the most revered creatures of the desert, were entrusted with carrying the tea to the festival. It was the day before the festival, and the oasis was buzzing with excitement. Humans were hanging lanterns on the palm trees, scorpions were setting up tiny cactus-shaped stalls, and even the meerkats had prepared a musical performance. In the middle of all this activity, a group of camels stood in a circle, looking at their leader, a wise and slightly grumpy old camel named Musa. "This year," Musa declared, "we have been chosen to carry the desert tea to the festival. It is our sacred duty. No spilling, no sloshing, and absolutely no drinking before it's served." The younger camels exchanged mischievous glances, but nodded solemnly. The tea was loaded into large, intricately designed clay pots, each placed carefully on the camels' humps. The pots were sealed with wax to keep the tea fresh during the journey. At sunrise, the caravan of camels set off. The path to the festival was long and treacherous, winding through dunes and rocky outcrops. The sun blazed overhead, and the sand shimmered like gold. The camels trudged along in silence, their steps steady, until one of the younger camels, a spirited troublemaker named Zafar, spoke up. "Why can't we taste the tea?" Zafar asked, his voice dripping with curiosity. "Just one sip. What's the harm?" Musa glared at him. "The harm is that the festival will be ruined if we arrive with empty pots. Do you want to be known as the camel who ruined the desert tea festival?" Zafar huffed, but fell silent. Still, the idea of sipping the tea lingered in his mind. By midday, the caravan reached the base of a massive dune called Shifting Giant. It was infamous for its steep climb and unpredictable winds. As the camels began their ascent, the pots on their humps wobbled precariously. "Hold steady," Musa called out, his voice firm. But Zafar, feeling mischievous, decided to trot ahead. "I'll show them how it's done," he muttered. As he reached the top, a sudden gust of wind swept through the dune. Zafar stumbled, and the pot on his back tipped dangerously. He managed to catch it just in time, but not without spilling a small drop of tea onto the sand. "Zafar!" Musa roared. "What did I say about spilling?" "It's just a drop," Zafar replied, his ears drooping. "No one will notice." But what Zafar didn't know was that the tea's secret ingredient, cactus nectar, was highly aromatic. As soon as the drop hit the sand, a sweet, tantalizing scent wafted through the air. The scent carried far and wide, reaching the nostrils of a nearby pack of desert foxes. These foxes were notorious troublemakers, always on the lookout for something to steal. They followed the scent to the caravan, their eyes gleaming with mischief. As the camels continued their journey, the foxes began their ambush. One fox leaped out, startling Zafar, who tripped and sent his pot tumbling down the dune. The pot shattered, spilling its golden contents everywhere. The other camels turned in horror. "The tea!" they cried. Zafar looked mortified. "I didn't mean to. The foxes—" "Quick, form a circle," Musa ordered. "Protect the remaining pots." The camels scrambled to shield the remaining tea, but the foxes were quick and cunning. Pots were knocked over, and the once perfectly brewed desert tea soaked into the sand. By the time the foxes were chased off, only one pot remained intact. Musa sighed deeply as he inspected the scene. "This is a disaster," he said. "The festival is ruined." The younger camels hung their heads in shame, especially Zafar. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have listened." The caravan trudged onward, reaching the festival just as the sun began to set. The crowd cheered at their arrival, until they noticed the broken pots and the single remaining pot of tea. Musa stepped forward and addressed the crowd. "Friends, I must apologize. We were ambushed by foxes, and most of the tea was lost. We have only one pot left." The crowd murmured in disappointment, but an elder human named Sheikh Karim stepped forward. "One pot is better than none," he said. "Let us share what we have." The single pot of tea was poured into tiny cups and shared among everyone at the festival. To their surprise, the tea tasted better than ever. Perhaps it was the long journey, the struggle to protect it, or the joy of sharing something scarce. But the festival turned out to be a success. From that day on, the camels and the desert animals started a new tradition. Instead of brewing vast quantities of tea, they brewed only one pot each year, to remind themselves of the value of sharing and the importance of working together. And as for Zafar, he became the most careful camel in the desert, forever haunted by the memory of spilling the desert tea.